Welcome to another Witchdoctors DIY garage where we show you how to do it yourself so you can save money. Today we're going to show you something, the start of a whole project, but the first thing we're going to do is we're going to show you how to remove the inner fairing on a Victory Cross Country. That way, if you have to get this off, we do a lot of painting of these. If you guys want to paint them yourself, send them to us. We'll show you how to take this off. It's not hard. There's a lot of screws that are kind of hard to get to, and there's some screws that are hidden that are hard to see. So the first, you have two screws up under here, up under the speedometer. There's some screws behind the speaker covers. They're all down around the outer edge, and you also have two behind the radio here. This is where people always forget and they don't know these, and they're really hard to see. So the first thing you're going to want to do is we pop out the speaker grills. And I just hook a little screwdriver in there. It's real easy, and just pop that right out. You won't scratch anything. It'll just pop right out. So I do both of those. Just pull on it and they just pop right out. You can see the screws that are hidden inside there. So you want to take those out. What they are is a 4mm Allen wrench. So you can use a T-wrench. You have long sockets. You can use an Allen wrench yourself, or you can use a socket on a Allen socket on a ratchet. So there's all different ways you can do this. Some of these bolts are a little harder to do. So you might need a combination of all those to get to them. But you just want to take these out. Nothing will fall apart. They'll just come right out. The other thing you're going to do is you want to pop these rings off around here. And all they do is just grab them and pull them right off. They just snap in with these clips here. They just snap right in. So if you wanted to put them back in, just line them up and push them on, and they'll go right on. Now the next ones are these ones around the outer edge here. And if you can see, I'll try to get a light here. If you can see, I put some blue tape on here to protect the fork. Back in here, there's a couple of them. Those are kind of hard to get to. They're a real pain in the ass, actually. But they're hard to get to. So I put some tape on there so you don't scratch up your fork trying to reach in there. I'll try to get this light so you can see it. That's where this long T-handle comes in handy. Okay, those just came out. Keep in mind, they're much easier to get out than they are to put back in. And you'll see that when you go to put them back in. Just take the rest of these out around the outer edge. And for you guys that have a bright color, a boardwalk blue or a sunset red, we also offer chrome screws for these. Makes a big difference if you're dressing it up and you want some chrome. We have those on the website, so you can really dress it up pretty cool. Okay, so that's it there. We'll go and do the other side. Now, one thing I can show you here is if you've ever seen an Allen wrench that has that ball on the end, See how one's straight and one has a ball? What that ball is, it's called a wobble. So when you put it into the screw, it wobbles around and you get a little different angle. So sometimes something like that, try to show you, it may help you get in there and it'll unscrew a little bit easier. And see what it does? It gives you that little bit of an angle there where it still keeps in the bolt, where the other wrench, if you were to try to angle it, it really doesn't move. It'll pop right out. So that's called a wobble. That's why, for you guys that didn't know, that's why that's on there, because you can move it all around. Okay. Okay, so most times is where we get the questions is, I got all the screws out and it won't come out. Well, you still have the two behind here. And they're really hard to see. I'll try to get with the light. But right here is where that screw is. Right there. So there's two of them. Now, I will say I cheated a little bit and I already have those screws a little bit loose, because those take a lot of turning a little bit at a time. So you can only really turn them just a hair at a time. So I do already have them a little bit loose, or would be here all day with the camera. And there really isn't an easy way to do these. You only get like a quarter turn at a time on them. There you go. So it's just kind of a little bit smaller one, but that's what's in there. It's the same on the other side. Okay, so that should basically be all the screws. You want to just double check and make sure you got them all out. But that's basically it. Now you just kind of jiggle it a little bit. And the one thing I forgot to tell you is when you take this out, you want to disconnect, make sure when you're pulling this out, you disconnect the wires on the back of the socket. So we'll come right back and show you how to do that. Okay, so you're just going to want to pull even pressure on the whole thing. You know, pull a little here, and get it to come out. Don't just grab one side and keep pulling. Keep pulling it even. So when you just get your fingers under a little bit, you can pull it. And then right here, and I'll show you when we have it off, but right here there's two big pins, like pegs, that go back in and snap in some rubber. So you got to kind of pull those out. Now the other thing is, be real careful you don't scratch up your handlebars. So we got the top here kind of loose. Now you want to just go down on the bottom and get it to kind of pop out from the fairing. And again, I'll show you when we have it off, but it's there's kind of little pegs on it, and they stick sometimes. There we go. So you just kind of work it all the way down, and then just kind of pull it out a little bit. And now you can get behind here through the speaker hole and through the dash. You can get behind here, and I'll show you. I'll get my light. And I'll show you the back here, if I can get my hand in it. Right here, there's your wires for your cigarette lighter. You want to unhook those. And this up here, if you can see it, it's right here. That's the peg I was talking to you that I was saying was stuck in there. That's what you have to kind of pull that out. So we'll disconnect the wires. They just pull right off. Okay, just pull them right off. And then just kind of finagle this out. There you go. And that's all there is to taking that dash out. Now the back, like I said, here's the peg that I was saying goes into the rubber. The other little pegs, you have a couple of these little ones here. That's what kind of snaps in, and they're more for alignment. Lines this fairing to the outer fairing. So that you have two of those big pegs, and you have these other ones. So you kind of got to work everything together to get it off. But that's basically how you take the inner part off. What we'll do next is we'll show you how to go and take the upper part off. So what we do, and we offer the painted one, we offer this as painting this, the speaker grills, and then also this upper part. So we'll show you how to do that. You got to take the windshield off. And on this particular bike, they have some spikes, so we can just unscrew these depending on what you got. If you got a stock bike, you have Allen bolts there. So you're just going to take that off and then pull the windshield out. Now this piece right here pops off. So you can do it with a screwdriver if you're real careful. I actually have a tool. It's for taking moldings off of cars, but it's a plastic like a stick. You want to just kind of pry that up a little bit, and you'll see when you get it under there, this is a little bit big, but it won't scratch. You just pop that off. It'll come right off, and you can see it just snaps in with those little snaps. You just kind of put it in and snap it in. Now the dash piece, this upper piece, it has the two screws in it that you have to take out. And they're the same screws as the fairing was, so same size. Okay, now that's basically all there is to that. But the problem you'll have is once you get it loose, you won't be able to get it out. You have to unbolt one of these windshield brackets. Doesn't matter which side, but it's a 10mm bolt. And you have to unbolt that. And that bracket will come off, and then you can kind of get that thing out. See how that'll just come out? Now you can pull that right out. And this is the upper piece. So that's what you get in a painted fairing set. You get this piece, you get the dash, and then you get the upper cover and the two speaker grills. So that's all there is to taking the dash apart on a Victory Cross Country. Okay, so to get the rest of the fairing off now, you got to pull the headlight trim out. And that basically just snaps in too. Just get your fingers in the crack and just work it all the way around. Just kind of pull it out. It comes right out. Then you're going to see some Allen bolts in here. There's a couple different ones. You want to take those loose. You can see the fairing's already getting kind of loose, the headlight. We're down to the last bolt here. Okay, so the headlight comes out. Now, all you have to do to get the headlight, you don't want to do you don't want to take the bulb, just unhook these tabs here. I'll get a screwdriver and show you. You just pull these to the side, these little tabs. There's one on each side. Just kind of pull them to the side. Disconnect it. Same as this, because you really don't want to pull the bulbs out. These kind of bulbs, you don't want to touch them. Just do that, and then that's the headlight. So now the fairing is just, you have to lift up on the fairing and pull it forward. And it unhooks. Okay? You see these little tabs here? There's one here, and there's one on this side. Those hook into this bracket right here. So what it does, it sits up on there and drops in. So that's what that does. So now you just have to disconnect your turn signals, and they work basically the same way. And on this, you almost do need a little thing to push that little tab down and pull that right out. You just push the tab and pull it right off. So that takes the front fairing off. So as you can see, none of this stuff is really that difficult. Now this looks like a mess, and it is, but it's not the end of the world. You can do a couple different things. If you need to disconnect some of this stuff, you can take some masking tape and wrap it, put a red piece on this one and a red piece on the other end so you can keep track of where everything goes. You can take a picture with your cell phone. A lot of these wires are already labeled for you. Top bulb. This is going to say right hand turn signal. This one's probably left hand turn signal. It says right on their display, means your dash part. So when you disconnect stuff, you can mark it, a piece of tape 1 and 1, 2 and 2, however you want to do it, so that you know how that all goes back together. So basically, the next step is to kind of unbolt this whole bracket. And this whole bracket is only held on with 4 bolts. Here, 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 and here. They're 13 millimeter bolts. Now, what we do is we kind of disconnect this stuff and set it on the floor. It's a little bit more work, but in the long run, it's a lot easier. So you'll see in through here, there's a lot of zip ties that hold these wire bunches together. You have to cut those zip ties. There's no way around it. So once you cut some of this zip ties, and when you do this, make sure you're cutting only the zip tie. Don't cut into the wiring harness. But once you do that and you cut those, you'll see this will start to make a little more sense. Everything's not so jumbled in here. You can pull this stuff out now, and you'll see a lot of stuff is connected up, but it doesn't go anywhere. All these things, they're connected up, but they don't do anything. So you really don't have to worry too much about it. They're just in the way. This is your radio antenna here. So if you were hooking up a hidden radio antenna, you have to do all this same thing, pulling the dash. You don't have to pull the inner dash, but you have to pull the outer off, and the radio just unplugs. It just pulls out. This is your antenna wire that runs to the back of the bike. So if you were to get rid of that, you could just fish it through and get rid of it, and then our hidden antenna plugs in here, and then it just kind of sticks up in here. It's got like a double side tape, and you can stick it up in here. So you just kind of get some of these wires out of the way. And most of them have that little tab type thing. You just push in on it and it'll come right apart. Okay? So once you start getting it, you can see it's not really that bad. I know it looks like a mess and you're going, oh my God. It's really not that bad. These connectors, these big connectors here, find where the thing's at. This one's a little bit different on the connector. If you can see it in the back here, kind of hold that. This little tab right here, you just push it down with your finger and pull it apart. I'm assuming this one's probably the same. Yeah, this one, same idea. It just looks different, but you just push that down. This one's pretty big. I can't quite get that twisted to where I want it. There we go. So it just pushes in like that. Just push that down and it'll pull apart. So now you can see a lot of these wires are already apart. You can get down to the next layer, and what you have is you have a 10mm bolt here. It holds this whole bunch of wires, okay? And a 10mm bolt here, and it holds this other bunch of wires, okay? This one here looks a little weird. I'll come back to that one. I don't see the connector thing here. Yeah, I'm gonna have to come back to this one because I don't see where that one connects. Yep, I'll come back to that one. Get some more of this out of the way. And you'll see there's a million wires everywhere. And a lot of times, if you do get goofed up and you think you forgot to label something, a lot of these only go back together one way. You can't cross them up. Although these two look almost identical, if you look at the connectors that they go to, they're completely different. Like this has 4 wire, this is only 3. But when you're looking, you're like, man, I don't know which one went where. It's only going to go one way. That won't go on there. Although it looks almost identical, it won't go on. So it's really not that big a deal. You have your speaker wire, cut those. This one you got to be real careful because there's another wire in there. There you go. Okay. Okay, so I think that's pretty much all of them. Here's another one. Again, just push the back of this down. Pulls right out. And you can start kind of, when you do stuff like that, start fishing these wires back through so that they're out of your way. So when you are working and you're trying to figure out what went where and all that, that stuff's out of your way. And this one, it can stay right on. It's kind of bolted to the bracket here. It can stay on there because it doesn't, it comes off with the bracket, so you don't have to deal with it. It's your cigarette lighter wire. Okay, so we now have this whole bundle disconnected. We'll stick the antenna down through, get it out of the way. So now we'll unbolt this here. If you were just doing handlebars, you still have to do almost the same amount of work. A lot of guys will just kind of unbolt the whole bracket and tip it forward. If you have a helper, you can kind of do it that way. But as quick and easy as this is, and like I say, I know it looks terrible, and you know, I've done a couple of them, so I make it look a little easier, but It's really not that hard. It's very intimidating at first though, but it's not that hard. Just take your time. Take that out, and now that wire, whole group of wires there, you can almost stick it back through. The other thing is, now that it's loose, if it won't go back through real easy, when you pull this off, you just fish it through. It just, right now, just kind of helps you so you can see what's disconnected if you missed anything. And again, these are 10 millimeter. Okay, so we're back to this one connector right here, and you can see I can't get this down through because this connector's here. So I got to try to figure out why this isn't coming out. And of course they got to make one completely different than all the rest of them. There you go. I see it now. It's this little white tab. Pretty sure if we just lift that up, it'll pull right apart. Okay. So now you can see pretty much everything is out. This will fish through there. We can stick this back here. This will fish through this big hole here. We can actually push that one through almost. You can reach it right from the back side. Pull that out. This one's a little bit stiff in there, so it's a little harder. Yeah, I don't want to force that one. That's a little bit harder, but you don't have to mess with it. So now, all this stuff is out. So we're going to take these 4 bolts off here, and it should come out. Now we may still have something stuck, which, you know, you can kind of expect that. You know, you may miss something. No big deal. Take these bolts out. I like to leave the bottom ones in just a hair. It kind of helps hold it. Those are easy to get out. These are a little bit harder under the wiring and everything. So I take these out and leave that. Hold it. You can see I'm using a 1/4 inch drive ratchet. These bolts aren't that tight, so you don't need anything big and heavy duty. Okay, so now these are loose, but they're still holding it, so we can see everything looks pretty loose. So if you don't have that extra hand, you leave those bolts in. So everything looks like it's pretty loose. So now you can take your bottom bolts out. Okay, now this should kind of jiggle off. And just be careful when you're pulling it off that you have all your wires are fished through. You don't want to tear any wires. Just kind of stuff that through. And there you go. That comes off just like that. It comes off. Gauges, everything come off as a one-piece unit. So you don't have to really mess with anything else. You just set that down. So now you can see how the wires can just be fished down through there. And that gets you to the triple tree and the handlebars part. So it's not that big a deal. You can see that took, what, maybe a half hour, 20 minutes to get all that in there. Not that big a deal. So the next thing we'll show you is how to disconnect all these cables and the grips and get the handlebars off.